Chapter 14. Dead. Dondor. Major Dondor sat on the balcony in his upstairs suite, gazing over the neatly trimmed gardens below. He liked this view. Backed by President Isleworth's palace, Dondor didn't have to be reminded he wasn't the richest man on Arceus. The president wasn't either. Sure, he was the richest man on the communist continent, Vorta, but there were thousands of richer capitalists across the ocean. That didn't foil the envy he had for his best friend's palace. He chuckled as he stirred sugar into his coffee. The grass is always greener. Someone tapped lightly on the door. He stood and poked his head into the suite. Come in. Sheila, Dondor's secretary, carried a folder of papers. The documents you requested, Major. Put them on the table in the living area. She followed his orders and left. The information was too secretive to view in the open on the balcony, so he carried his coffee inside and sat at the dining table, avoiding his cluttered desk. Dondor rubbed his forehead as he flicked through the president's paperwork. Professor Alizand had already secured a foolproof location to build nuclear warheads. When he turned to the page with the exact location, the Major's jaw dropped. For a moment he stared into nothingness before scrubbing a palm over the stubble on his head. Half of President Isleworth's nuclear warheads were going to be built on enemy territory. At a loss for words, he picked up the phone and spoke to his secretary. Can you find out whether Professor Alizand is busy? He's gone away on business. Where to? The nuclear power plant in Osbox. No way. Yes. Thank you, Sheila. That'll be... Wait, Major Dondor? Yes. I know you told me not to interrupt your important business, but Dr. Ensign is waiting here and wonders if you're free. Yes, send him in. The tall and thin scientist appeared paler than usual, and his large brown eyes were wild. He hovered and didn't accept a seat. Your agent from Shepherd Station has important news to discuss with you. Can you make it down to the laboratory? Through the prisoner? Yes. Dondor followed Dr. Ensign out of a back door to his mansion. Their feet crunched over gravel towards the white marble steps of President Isleworth's palace. Inside, he rounded a corner to the right. Outside an elevator, he demanded a security guard escort them to the basement floor. He marched past holding cells with political captives to one of the laboratories at the end of the corridor and scanned his iris and fingertips at a security panel. Inside, the female cyborg marine flopped in a chair. Blood oozed through a bandage wrapped around her head. Dondor let out a pent-up breath. Wakey, wakey. The girl flinched, but didn't seem to have the strength to raise her head. It was amazing how much you could do to a person by beating them and leaving them chained in a chair without food and water for a day or two. I said, wakey, wakey. Her shoulders pitched up for a second before flopping back down. I can force her to sit up straight if you like, Dr. Ensign said. Dondor sucked in a sharp breath through his nostrils and shook his head. Is there a way to plug her in so we can communicate with Agent Haru? Via the telepathy device, that's right. Ensign smirked. Mayleedian technology's good, but my engineers figured a way to loop her autonomous circuit into a subservient one. How do we get the messages? Ensign removed the bandage. What would have been a smooth beige forehead was now an inflamed and bloody wound the size of an orange. Between the dried blood and crude stitches was a round piece of convex metal mesh. What did you do to her? Made her subservient. What's that? The speaker. You can direct telepathic messages through that? The doctor nodded. Now you can hear what your agent tells you directly from his mouth. He giggled, or shall I say, her head. Dondor's fingers went stiff. How could the doctor consider this humorous? Why is her mouth bleeding? We couldn't get her to speak. Then how did you receive Haru's message? Even if we could copy such innovative Mayleedian technology, we couldn't afford the materials or factory facilities. But I've got a few clever engineers on my team, and one has a keen interest in cybernetics. She rewired this marine circuit. I heard Haru. He knuckled the speaker. Major Dondor's chin hung for an instant. Dr. Ensign lurched behind her and fumbled with her red curls before retrieving a headset. Use these headphones if you want to listen in private. You're kidding. We no longer need to rely on our prisoner's willingness. Do you desire to hear this message, Major? Why didn't you just send me the message yourself? Agent Haru wishes to address you only. Had somebody discovered his manipulation of the satellite images? Pass me the headphones and mic then. The scientist nodded and unreeled the headset before handing it to the Major. Agent Haru, can you hear me? This is Major Dondor. I can hear you. 4 Mayleedian cyborg agents have been escorted to Shepherd Station. They're posing as the offspring of various communist politicians and scientists. Dondor's throat constricted. The apprentices sent in the rocket a week ago. That's right, I could hear them communicating together through their telepathy devices. They're not communist at all. It's a covert operation. The sweat on the Major's forehead went cold. So what do you plan to do? You're my boss. Just tell me what you want. You should probably kill them. I can. But do it secretly, always. Try to decipher what you can from them first. I've hacked into their open communication channels and have discovered a lot. Perhaps you can find out the location of where these Mayleedians came from. Mother of stars. Agent Haru said, what is it? I just discovered something very important about one cyborg. I can't believe it. What? He didn't reply. Dr. Ensign sucked in a breath through his teeth. She is dead. Who? But when Dondor looked down, it was obvious whose life had ended. What does that mean? Dondor steps back from the dead cyborg captive, young enough to be his daughter. It means her telepathy channels will fracture if we don't transfer the brain-to-machine interface to somebody else within the next hour. The white showed all around Dr. Ensign's brown eyes as they bulged desperately. Who can we use? Who do you trust? The other cyborg captives died. We can't use them. How about another prisoner? Dondor shivered. Haru had been about to tell him something important. They won't have the other apparels. Didn't you have some cybernetics inserted into your optic nerves? I did, in my blind eye, but the operation was a failure. We have little time. Can you operate on me? You, Major? It makes sense. There won't be any trust issues then. Are you sure? Dr. Ensign lay a shaky hand on his shoulder. Can you put me under now and do it? I can. Dondor drew up to his full length. Let's do it. I must know what else Agent Haru was about to disclose. President Isleworth. Major Dondor limped into President Isleworth's suite with a bandage wrapped around his head. What happened to you? Isleworth shot out of his seat aghast. Dondor beckoned for him to sit. I'm fine, just got some wet work inserted into my brain. What? Why? He eyed the secretary. Has this place been swept for bugs recently? Just this morning. Do it again. But only the president's been in here, and just do it. The man's face tightened as he veered to his office, then came back with a device. He scanned the area. No alarms went off. It's completely bug-free. Good. What's the bandage for? Isleworth said after his secretary left. I've had a device inserted into my brain. He grimaced. Why on Arceus would you do that? To receive direct neural messages from my double agent in Shepherd Station, which is... His mouth went dry as he sat staring at Dondor's bandage head. The one I told you about, Agent Haru. He inserted AI into the computer receiving international satellite images, remember? Oh, him, of course. He has some news? Yes. But our last surviving cyborg captive just died, so I volunteered myself. The brown-skinned major jutted out his jaw. There's a covert operation offensive underway in Shepherd Station. Mayleedian Black Ops have sent cyborg marines to infiltrate various confidential projects taking place there. Isleworth cleared his throat. Which projects do you know about, and which projects have a cause for concern? Biological experimentation on living biorobotics with integrated thought-controlled weaponry. Also, biological instantaneous information transferal through a telepathic means via brain-to-computer interface. Mind speech without the computer chip. I have a recommendation, which is launch a missile into the space station. Isleworth clutched his arms to his chest. How many would perish? Dondor shrugged. From my opinion, Mr. President, we must attack. As you have said, the Oxboxians and Mayleedians do not fear us. We must make a stand and prove to them we are a major threat to be considered. I'm going to change that a little bit. I don't have a missile for the job. You do now. You have 4. Can't you remember? I showed them to you the other day. They'll reach orbit. Oh, yes. The outcome of that will be a full-on war. Everyone will know it's me. But did you forget about Professor Alazan's instructions to produce nuclear warheads in our adversary's territory? Isleworth scraped a hand through his hair. He's been quick on the mark. What if the missile is launched from such an unknown location? What are you saying? We blast it from the Exorius power plant in Chien. But how can Alazan do that? He has many working for him, under the capitalists' noses. They presume the weapons belong to them. The operators aren't on their side, though. And those operators are prepared to die for the Dawn Republic, of course. But someone might hinder them. No one will know. They can do it in the dead of night. You have undercover ops who will intercept the security system too. Isleworth backed away, sensing a heightened need for personal distance. The Mayleedians will beat us with that cyborg army of theirs. You yourself know the strength Mayleeda has over the Galactic Alliance. That's why we must stop their projects and bioweaponry production. The Major cleared his throat. Professor Estev is a fraud, and so are the other so-called communists who deceived you about sending their teenagers to Shepherd Station as apprentices. Their teenagers are cyborg black ops? They're not even related. Estev doesn't have a daughter. The girl who was sent to the infamous International Space Station is a spy who works for the Mayleedians. How could that be if she's only 12? She's a child soldier, one of the best, and now she's a cyborg. And you think I should kill her along with all the other people on the space station, including communists of the Dawn Republic? Yes. Was it Agent Haru's idea? He said it would completely ruin years of work and kill the only other 4 Mayleedian cyborgs with memory chips. Isleworth weighed the pros and cons. It would initiate a full-blown war if they discovered it was him. But if the Mayleedians considered the missile came from Osbox, they might attack the capitalists, giving him time to build more power. All Dawn Republic traitors must be executed slowly. You hear me? Chapter 15. Ambush. Agent Haru. Haru awoke and stifled a yawn when the Dawn Republic's major spoke in his mind. Agent Haru, can you hear me? It's Dondor here. Damn, he picked sleep from his eyes. Sorry, I mean yes, you just woke me. Get out of that space station within the next 10 hours. Huh? What? Why? Isleworth's gonna nuke it. As his thoughts froze, Sissia's huge black eyes swelled in his inner vision. What about my girlfriend? What about her secret? But the cyborgs, what about them? This makes your job easier. No need to plan their assassinations. Just get your butt off Shepherd Station and return safely to my mansion. Why is he nuking the place? That's messed up. He'll kill thousands. Since when did you care about people dying? But why? He'll start a war and it's not your job to question our leader. You'll get all the explanations you need when you return to terra firma. I've already arranged a suite for you on your arrival. Feeling overheated, Haru unstrapped himself from his sleeping bag and slithered out. Okay, he floated, staring at nothingness through the porthole window. After the Major bid him farewell, he considered what craft he'd used to escape and his reason for using it. He pulled on his gravity boots and squatted. If he didn't hunger for the cargo and Oshun's memory chip, he'd tell Sissia he had an urgent meeting with a Mayleedian tech company before taking the landing rocket down. Oshun would go on her 6th spacewalk with the Beluvians the following day. Sissia had blown off his date night for that reason. His muscles loosened in the confusion of it all, yet his body posture didn't collapse as it would in a gravity environment. Even with the use of a personal craft, taking anything from his girlfriend's lab would prove difficult. He'd need an outside man or woman for the job. May had a craft. It was so advanced it could permeate the Arthean atmosphere. The corrupt Admiral Marsh had gifted it to her should she or Judan need to escape, but they weren't truly on his side and must not at all costs discover whatever Oshun knew. Should he let them know the truth? No. They'd kill me on the spot. How about my viper venom? He had the antidote. He could inject the poison into both women and force them to give him access to May's craft for the antidote. Just delete that bit. That's obvious. Otherwise, he could kill Jordan before injecting May. Whether he did or didn't kill Jordan first, he could use her craft to abduct Oshun. He'd threaten the Beluvians, then abduct Oshun. Their outside location was secret enough for no one to see the craft attached via its suckers. He shuddered. Impossible. He'd contact Oshun directly, blocking May and Jordan from his communication channel. Oshun Musa, can you hear me? Nothing. But her communication channel was opened because he could hear the fuzzy interference agents with telepathy devices used when they blocked thoughts from intruders. If he told her about the nuke, she could warn the others. He needed the bridge of his nose. He needed more time to think this through. An old enemy came to mind. Haru adjusted his telepathic settings. Jefferson, are you there? Well, 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 the Nerthling wet worker answered. If this isn't the Mayleedian fugitive, killed any more high-ranking officers of late? Oh no, you have no more wives to murder. Haru's face boiled, but he kept his calm. You still piloting space jets? What's it to you? I need help off the space station. What's in it for me? I have money. Tell me what you need me to do. Major Dondor. The Director General of Dawn Republic's intelligence agency was shown into Dondor's office. After the secretary left, Tabeth Goss sat opposite Dondor. You came in person to visit me. I did. The petite woman was mixed race. Although black curls framed her pretty pale brown face, her eye colour had taken on the recessive gene for Mayleedian yellow. Unlike Mayleedians, she shared Dondor's Mayleedian lips, soft and generous. He had always marvelled at how such an attractive woman could rise in the ranks, but that was communism. Women held up half the sky. What do I owe the pleasure? He asked. I'm not sure it's pleasurable, what I'm about to tell you. What does it concern? You mean who does it concern? It's about Mayleedian infiltration on our planet and the International Space Station. Agent Haru already informed us, and President Isleworth's going to nuke the space station. It's the president's decision, and one of them is related to you. His skin tingled with discomfort. What? There was a tightness around her false smile. It's widely known that you like your ladies and undoubtedly have offspring across the 7 solar system of planets' galactic alliance. What? I have a son? Why do you assume it's a boy? She's a 12-year-old girl. Does Oshun Musa ring any bells? Musa. He shook his head in denial. From Kawanja? Yes. Carmen Musa came to mind. The sweet woman with a body to die for. I know exactly who that is. I impregnated her mother, Carmen. She offered him a harsh squint. That part's obvious. By the way, her mother, Carmen Musa, is now dead. He shrugged. People die. You really are a heartless sod. I'm just following my biological urge to spread my seeds across the stars. Her neck disappeared when she leaned back. So what's this child doing and why so young? Tabeth told Oshun had been tricked into becoming a Marine because of her skills in wargaming. The Durble division of Nerthus' Interstellar Military Alliance even had the cheek to make her believe she had murdered a boy. Major Dondor pressed his knees together as the Director General of Dawn Republic's intelligence agency continued to tell him about Oshun's story. The division took an infantry of space marines to Artheus. On the way, many of the marines died when space slugs hatched from undetected spores and gorged on limbs and other appendages, while the teenagers were unconscious in cryosleep. She survived the attack, but once the Durbanese government realised they'd be working alongside the Mayleedian Secret Service, they left her behind on the spaceship. She had the opportunity to be adopted and trained by a spaceship particle wrangler, but declined, preferring to study and train with plant biologists on Shepard Station in an undercover operation. He held his breath. His voice tremored. She's on the space station now. She nodded. There's something important going on, some bioweaponry manufacturing. Space is a good place to test it, but Isleworth's going to nuke the place. He had to flee and tell him not to. She shrugged. It makes sense. We can't afford for the Mayleedians to create bioweaponry or whatever else they're doing up there. Just thought you'd better know about your 12-year-old daughter. He covered his face with his palms. She can't die. She splayed her fingers and inspected her short nails. The president will have a meeting in exactly 10 minutes. During that time, he will give the detonators the go-ahead to nuke the space station. I'll tell him not to. He stood and made his way to the door. The president won't be thrilled if you barge in on the conversation. I know someone who can assassinate the operatives and bring me my daughter instead. Is that so? It is. We don't have time to contact this person. He owes me big time. He's the best assassin in the vacuum of space. Who is he? Agent Haru. Go quickly. Dondor nodded and with his heart in his throat ran to the east wing of President Isleworth's palace. Oshun. Oshun was used to spacewalking, but she'd never get used to seeing the cute root babies thriving in the vacuum of space. She peered at her gloved hands as her heart sank. They never survived longer than 3 weeks, though. She'd watched them perish one by one. Professor Sissi, Uma and their Beluvian research assistants had thick skin, but Oshun could never accept the cruelty of it all. The clamp around Oshun's waist snapped her backwards. It zipped her into the expanse, 200 meters away from the module. The jerking sensation made her stomach queasy. When it halted, everything was eerily still. The robotic hand rotated her to face Shepard Station again. Some kind of meter-long levitating device shot a plasma beam from its nose. The ray collided into Sissia and her team. The entire module silently exploded. Oshun's sweat turned cold. Metal shot past, missing her by less than a meter. Mutilated corpses catapulted away. Professor Sissia flew past too, her smashed helmet revealing a suffocating face. As she swirled away with other debris, film spread across her gigantic black eyes and her head ballooned before freezing solid. Oshun glimpsed back at the station. Spherical blue flames engulfed the area where she'd just been spacewalking seconds ago. The blast had decimated at least 3 modules. The mysterious lab assistants with telepathy devices will have died too. As Oshun stared in shock at the dwindling ball of blue flames, she realised the robotic arm which had saved her life had become detached from the module. Time slowed in the ghostly silence of the vacuum. An uncontrollable shudder swept across her entire body. She was doomed. Mayday, mayday, can anyone hear me? Henrietta? What the hell happened? This is Marcus from the control room. She clenched and unclenched her hands within their large gloves. A plasma beam collided with my module. They've gone. My entire team has gone. 3 modules decimated. Can you get back? Her arms hung to her sides. I'm detached. No jetpack? No. We have a location on you. We're sending someone out on a tether. A minute later, Ren spoke to her. His voice was clear and not muffled like Marcus's. Oshun Musa, don't converse aloud to me. I'm using my telepathy device. A sudden feeling of heaviness expanded in her core. Ren sounded calm, considering what had happened to his girlfriend. That impact wasn't accidental, Ren said. There are assailants on board. They've killed 2 of your commando friends. Your friend Elon, whose true name is Agent Matthew, is being held at gunpoint with his boss, Latmany. What can I do? The assassin will try to pick you up using a tether and jetpack. He will kill you instead. You must shoot him when he comes. It will blow a hole in your glove, but the suits withstand holes in the sleeves and legs for a period. Seeing as your limbs are metal, you should cope. When he halted his speech, the only sound she could hear was her heartbeat thrashing in her ears. But how can I survive out here all alone? Nothing. She whimpered. Can't you hear me? Oshun, I'm getting a signal. You can use your telepathy device. I'm scared. Of course. But to survive, you must picture a gun in your hand and shoot. Then what? Take his jetpack and come back alone. That Marine mustn't return to the space station. She stared down at the dark planet. She had only killed 1 person before. That was by accident. Could she trust Ren? Too many weird things had happened since she had discovered he was a cyborg spy. She'd have to think fast. An astronaut travelled towards her from a different section of the space station. She couldn't shoot someone who was coming to rescue her. She wouldn't. Chapter 16. Mistake. Agent Haru. Haru clenched his jaw as he pondered on his ruined plans while strapped to the seat at his computer. Despite the fact Dondor had altered arrangements and ordered Haru to wait, he and Jefferson had hacked the robotic arm bearing Oshun and programmed a drone to blow the bio department. Jefferson was supposed to pick Haru up in his craft from a port 3 modules down from May and Jadan's lab. After that, they were to abduct the floating Oshun, but flying debris had collided with Jefferson's craft, destroying its cloaking mechanism. Agent Haru heaved a sigh as he clenched and unclenched his fists. If Oshun killed the rescuer, Jefferson had double agents working for the international police. If Oshun got arrested for murder, they'd escort her to terra firma prison. Haru could organise an escape plan. As he pretended to listen to Richard drone on about how lucky they'd been to not have exploded with the plant biology modules, the knot in Haru's belly tightened. I should have never begged Jefferson to help me, he thought. Both were interstellar fugitives who had worked for the Mayleedians. Haru for the special ops, and Jefferson for defence. Richard waved his chubby hands, waking Haru from his regret. But what the hell happened? A gas leak? Dunno. There's no footage, but there's a survivor. Feeling overheated, he tried to change the subject. What's on the menu for dinner? Seriously, Ren, how can you wonder about food? I'm hungry. Did Oshun see the drone? Can getting her arrested for murder help me abduct her? While Richard moaned about the rubbish menu, Haru contacted his enemy Jefferson. Got someone on board? Just, you owe me, Haru. Hey, it ain't my fault the Major suddenly altered plans, and you say that kid's his daughter. Apparently, gonna kill her. Maybe. Does he want her off the space station? Not now, but you want her off, right? Unless you want to abort the mission. No way, this is too sweet. I've got you under my thumb. Damn, Haru swiped fingers through his hair. There's no point nuking it now. But yeah, if she goes for the kill, she'll get arrested. You sure your man will deal with her? We have a plan. An escape to terra firma? Even better, en route to terra firma. She gonna kill him? Hopefully, Haru sighed. Richard stared at Haru. Well, huh? Have you been listening to anything I said? Oh, sorry, buddy. Just got some issues going on. With what? Haru waved him off. Don't worry about it. He relaxed when Richard left the module in a huff. Talkative co-worker. He's gone now. I figured. So yeah, you know this is adding up, right? Your craft got struck from your explosion. That's not on me. Come on, I'm bringing an official in order to help. He needs money too. I'll pay him 1/3. How? Come on, I showed you the relics I stole. Let's delete that. I've already got, come on. In that cave of yours? Yes, he groaned. He really had to end Jefferson's life during the mission. What if she doesn't kill him? Then there's nothing we can do, and I'll tell you the whereabouts of the relic. No one must discover his cavern, but he'd have to share the intel if it failed. But you need this girl, right? Still, she was his only chance to discover what Sissia was working on with the Beluvian Sisters of Hidden City. Okay, my guys are coming with an international detective. He thought about his albino-skinned Beluvian girlfriend, now dead, but he'd long ago learned how to shut off regret and guilt. He jutted his chin towards his screen. Frankie and the murderer stood on the snowy peak under the light of 2 red moons and countless white stars. What's this thing then? Ogwa slammed a gloved palm against the side of the crystal pyramid. Frankie's breathing was shallow, and he gave both monument and the stranger a vacant stare. Through his good eyes, snow plummeted in thick, cold flakes and had blanketed against the southern side of the pyramid from where the wind whistled. The sheer surface glistened like purple water. Frankie's stomach churned as he wondered what to do. His hoverboard was hidden in his underpants. Handcuffs, however, made him powerless. It took hours hours to hike down the mountain, and despite the sweat under Frankie's animal furs, his toes were icy cold. The man carried Oliot in a bundle and continued to go on about how much better life was on the other side of Ice Ocean and how they'd get there as migrants on a boat. He said his wife's parents had assets they could sell and there'd be human traffickers on the east coast. It's a shame we have to hike there. The port's at least 50 miles away. But it's impossible to walk through the snow. Frankie surveyed the valley where the snow pushers made pathways for tanks. If we follow those paths, the communists will capture us. See the river there? The man pointed. It's still flowing. I say we follow the bank. That will lead us to an inlet in the ocean. If it doesn't go directly to the port, we can find passage from the coast. Do you even know how the river travels? Didn't you see the coastline from the mountains? I did, but how do you know how far it is? I studied the geology of this continent since I escaped prison. The port's in the same direction. If we can't find help, we'll smuggle ourselves onto a ship. Ogwa lowered Olio and let him dash along with them. Despite Frankie's slack face, the skin under his makeshift eye patch itched like hell, but with hands locked behind his back, there was nothing he could do. Scratching would worsen it. He followed Ogwa along the riverbank, but because the mud had frozen over, coupled with the inability to hold his arms out for balance, he kept slipping. Every time he toppled, Olio leapt to lick his face. You didn't have to kill the sister. Yes, I did. Couldn't you have just made her unconscious instead? No. She was the barrier to our escape. It had to be done. Ogwa sneezed and wiped snot on his sleeve. You got a lighter, boy? Yes, Frankie patted his pocket. So you are good for something then. Why do you want me with you? I'll just slow you down. Because if we can't find food, I can gorge on you and your sparry cat. Frankie let out a nervous snigger. With his hands bound, he couldn't get his hoverboard. Even if he could, he'd plummet without the use of the handlebars. After tramping for what felt like years, the red sun rose ahead in the east. What the hell is that? Ogwa clutched Frankie's shoulders and forced him into a squat, then grabbed Oliot and pointed at the forest. Groups of indigenous folk wearing furs sat in sledges, pulled by snow dogs who seemed to know where the shallowest snow was. Quick, boy! Run before they see us! Ogwa whips the sparry cat into his arms. Visions of escape flicked through Frankie's mind. He could shout and ask them to help. When he twisted to glance at the savages, he changed his mind. They had machetes and bows and arrows, along with packs of clothing, food and wood. Sprinting with Ogwa, he pitched over again and Olio whined from Ogwa's arms. The husky dogs barked and chased them, pulling the sleighs behind. Scared, Frankie decided to run towards the folk. Please help! Help me! He froze when he saw a captive tied up with ropes. It was one of those plant humans from the underground spaceship. Ogwa caught up with him and squeezed his shoulder, just as 3 of the tribesmen pulled bows out of the sleigh and targeted their arrowheads at them. Easy now, Ogwa let go of his shoulder. We mean you no harm. The arrow men disembarked from the sleigh and creeped barefoot up the frozen riverbank, arrows still targeting their chests. They spoke an unknown language, then questioned Ogwa and Frankie in those alien words. We don't know what you're saying, Ogwa said. A female's voice chimed in Frankie's mind. You're that boy from Hidden City, aren't you? You came through the forbidden territories with Sister Zarita. He went completely still, muscles frozen in place. Are you the tree person tied in the sleigh? He tried to mind speak. Yes. Despite the ropes around her, she had angled over and pressed the tips of her index fingers and thumbs into a triangle at her heart. I am. Don't tell them I'm talking in your mind. Why are your hands tethered behind your back? This man is a murderer. You know Zarita. She showed you the way to the mountaintop. Zarita's dead. This man murdered her. Although she sat 10 feet away, he could make out her stunned expression despite her tree bark skin and hair branches. Change that bit a little bit. Although she sat 10 feet away and despite her tree bark, skin and hair branches, he could make out her stunned expression. You're his captive. What does he want? He says he'll eat me and my pet sparrow cat if he gets hungry and cannot hunt. I'm taking this tribe to Hidden City. Why? They might kill me if I don't, and I must return. You're from that underground spaceship? Yes, it's my stupid fault. I was curious to see what was outside. One tribesman lowered his bow and arrow to the ground, while the other aimed precisely at Ogwa's head. His companion inspected Frankie's handcuffs and muttered something. The other man shrugged. Frankie took a deep breath. Can you tell them to rescue me? The men flicked the back of their hands, gesturing for Ogwa and Frankie to leave. Ogwa yanked Frankie's elbow and dragged him away. No, please, he hinged his head around to glimpse the tree woman. Can you still hear me? Yes, I can hear all sorts when my fingers and thumbs form a triad. Do you know their language? I do. Please, tell them how bad he is. They have to rescue me. He kept his gaze over his shoulder as Ogwa tugged him further away. The plant woman discussed something with some of the tribal women, and those women talked to the men and pointed, but the men shook their heads and urged the dogs to sprint in the other direction. Frankie tipped his chin to his chest in self-pity. When they arrived at a campfire, it was obvious the entire tribe had left for a better life in Hidden City, but no one in Hidden City, except the 5 sisters, knew the secret of the Noir Plus. What would happen when they did? Sarita was dead, and the other 4 sisters would have to deal with it. Perhaps the politics there would never be the same. They've left nothing for us to eat, Ogwa said. I'm thirsty. Can we drink from the river? It's polluted from the uranium plant at the foot of Mount Alimazi. Drink it, you might die. I need water. The big man took a thermos from his cloak. Here, have some of this. Don't drain it. He waved a beefy finger at him. Frankie sipped from the metal rim, wishing he could knock it back. Olior whined, and Frankie let him slurp some from his palm, producing a low growl from Ogwa. Frankie's stomach churned for food. He felt like sobbing. Leave me and my sparrow cat here. I don't want to go back to Osbox. You didn't like living in Osbox? Ogwa raised an eyebrow. I was a slum boy. Your parents, they died. He bowed his head. You're coming with me. Frankie could hear blood rushing through his ears. He opened his mouth but sealed it again. Ogwa had murdered Zarita without a second thought. He could do the same to him and Olior. Chapter 17. Dumbfounded. President Isleworth. The president sat dumbfounded after cancelling the detonation of Shepherd Station. His hero and best buddy lowered his bandaged head, resting his elbows on his knees. He knotted and unknotted his fingers. I know I have a lot of kids, but thank you for not killing my daughter. Isleworth sighed with exaggeration. You promised me you never knew about this daughter of yours? Never. What do you plan to do with her? Get her down to Vorta? Pay for her to live in a comfortable communist compound? You don't wish to meet her? I'm not the fathering sort. Isleworth's hands clenched briefly. Just a gene-spreading machine. Do you trust me on this? Dondor pushed himself up and held out his palms. Sure. So what are you going to do this weekend? I was going to visit my nuclear energy sites. Are you still? Everything's revised. I'll cancel my breakaway. We need to find out where the Mayleedian headquarters are. Dondor rubbed his shaved head. Agent Haru definitely doesn't have it recorded on his memory chip. Apparently not. They blindfolded all their agents and weakened their cybernetic extrasensory perception during transportation. Dondor checked the time. Speaking about Haru, I'd better catch up with him and see what he plans next. Isleworth hesitated. Can you do that now? Is it okay? Isleworth nodded his permission and watched as the man closed his eyes, but Dondor's calm features grew tighter with time. After he opened his eyes, he heaved a sigh and blinked. You finished? He nodded. What's wrong? Haru was all set to go then. Heard there's been an explosion in the biolab where my daughter works. Is she dead? He doesn't know yet. Snow. Oh, actually, I'm going to call her a different name. Heather. Heather chewed on a cuticle as she hurried through underground passageways to get to the Penty Theatre. After entering the first set of security doors, she followed several more passageways until 2 guards opened the final steel entrance. When she entered, her 3 sisters were not perching in their usual corners of the pentagram, but standing in the centre, where orange light reflected off one white head and filtrated the 2 black. The sisters' wool robes over their grey cotton dresses dampened the crumpling sound when they pivoted. 3 pairs of glittering black eyes stared at Heather. She strode towards them. Is it true? Was the Dorita murdered? The weaker of the group shuddered and sobs exploded from her throat. She's been dead for 2 days. She was found in Hidden City? Yes. And she was dead the entire time? That's what the doctors speculate. How did she die? Somebody snapped her neck. Her body froze. Where was she found? In a cranny near her home. Why? Security footage shows Frankie and a Mayleedian man went down to her home level. And Dave? Dave left hours before. YuFu sealed her large black lids for a few seconds. I saw her return after he left. No, it was after that. Frankie went to see her when she was still alive, after Dave had left hours before, said the subdued Hetz. The man he brought is called Ogwa. They went searching for the terrorist. YuFu nodded. They're not here anymore. The Sparry Cat went too, Julie Ran added. Ogwa. Heather tried to ponder all the people in Hidden City, but there were too many, YuFu said. But I disclose more. Ogwa is from Osbox and desired to return to his family over the ice ocean. He said he'd free Frankie's pet Sparry Cat if the young man showed him the way out. Guards say he may have killed Zarita near the elevator. He was a big man, strong enough to snap her neck with little effort. But why? To get out? Heather scrubbed a hand over her face. Frankie had no other guardians? Just Ogwa. But Zarita loved Frankie, Heather said. She said he was like a son to her. That's why we believe Frankie was helpless when Ogwa killed her. Heather's heart beat fast in her chest. Was this before or after the delivery of noir-plast fetuses to Shepherd Station? Well after. YuFu ran her black hands over her robe. What can we do? Heather asked. That's why we called you here, Julie Ran said. We must decide. That sentiment was almost a trigger for the 4 of them to plop down in their corners, but one pentagram point remained empty. I put forward that we initiate a new Beluvian into our sisterhood, YuFu said. But no other Beluvians had the scientific skills and knowledge that we possess. Hetz pulled her robes in tightly. This is not true, Heather said. Zarita's very own daughter, Hinny, was taught much by her mother. She knows the history of the chairman and his noir-plasts. Julie Ran nodded. Heather's nails bit into her palms. Zarita told Hinny about the noir-plast? Julie Ran flinched. I'd be more worried about that murderer Ogwa knowing. We have no evidence he killed her, Hetz said. Zarita and her secrets. Heather drew in slow, steady breaths and stared at the 2 black Beluvians. Did you know about this too? None of us knew about this. YuFu peered at each sister. Then where did you hear this from? Heather asked. About Hinny's knowledge of the noir-plasts, I mean. Hinny told me herself, Julie Ran said. When I went to tell her about her mother's murder, she confessed to the shared secrets. It doesn't matter if we intend to initiate her anyway, YuFu said. She'll need to know everything, even the oracles. Heather's laughter had an edge. How many others did Zarita tell about the noir-plast? Does Hinny know about our studies on Shepherd Station? Julie Ran's milk-white brow creased in the centre. I didn't ask her about that, but Hinny swore she had never and will never whisper a word of it to anyone outside of the Penta Theatre. The time is coming near, Hetz curled over. We still need to prepare. The laboratory in the International Space Station has achieved some miraculous advances. Not only have they produced noir-plasts who can survive the vacuum of space, but also specimens proven capable of releasing radiation-loving algae and geobacter into polluted soil. Are you sure? Heather asked. Yes, Zarita told me before she died. I was waiting for her to share the news herself. And the soil? Did they create the special soil for deradiating noir-plasts after their work? Sissy assumes they did, but we'll only know once it's tested in this location because of the magnetic anomaly under black silver. Hetz bolted upright. It should arrive on its next shipment, which will be, I'm still waiting for word from Artheus International Aviation. They'll let us know when Sissy is next due to arrive. Good. A knock resounded at the door and Heather drew back. What is it? A very important message, sisters, a man's voice said. From whom? I prefer to converse privately. Who are you? Agent Evans from Deplox's Aviation. Heather exchanged shot looks with her other sisters. Come in. A short Mayleedian man shuffled into the room with the sisters' 2 security guards. You may leave, Ylvo said to the men. We know Evans well. She raised an eyebrow. Though it's been a very long time. Evans waited for the men to leave before stepping into the light between the women. I apologise for coming. I didn't know what else to do. Whatever's happened? Dread marred Hetz's face. He shrugged. The biolabs on Shepherd Station have been demolished. No, Heather's breath bottled. I'm afraid so. The 3 main modules where your Beluvian scientists worked. Are they alive? Julie Rand stuttered. He shook his head. But the work, the specimens, he rubbed his face. All gone, sisters, all the workers gone. Decades of work! Heather's throat constricted. What do we do? I'm sorry. I'm the bearer of bad news, not the fixer-upper. He spun on his heel. May I leave? But where will you go? Back to work. I imagine you won't pay me anymore, but AIA still will. I will still be working there. Send me someone if you need further help. Your secret's always safe with me. After he left, the sisters remained pacified as shock set in. Whatever will we do about the prophecy? Ylvo asked. First Zarita and now all our work. I can't believe Sissy is dead. All our work, Ylvo screamed. There's nothing we can do but rebuild what we learned. Tears streamed down Julie Rand's cheeks. Don't forget, Sissy always brought specimens back with her. I say we forget about producing Noir Plus, which survives space, and just work on that deradiating soil. But we don't know how to. We will learn. Chapter 18, International Police. Oshun. Suspended in space with her decapitated robotic arm clamped around her waist, Oshun waited. At first, the apparent assassin coming to rescue her looked like a speck of dust, but after 10 minutes she could see the astronaut get bigger. Too many people she knew died. Was she bad luck? First Mum, then the boys she'd accidentally killed, so many teenage Marines, Teresa, and now the whole scientific team she'd lived and worked with for 2 weeks. She hadn't liked their work, but she'd still liked them. The assassin got nearer. He had a propulsion pack on his back. But why would he kill her after retrieving her from the vacuum of space? If anyone wanted her dead, surely they'd leave her to float away or shoot her now. Unless he wants my expensive cyborg apparels. Her breaths burst in and out, loud in her helmet, as the astronaut came nearer. If she morphed her hand into a plasma or bullet gun, as Ren had suggested, if she shot him, then how could she return to the space station? Oshun Musa, can you hear me? Yes. Good. I'm going to bring you back to the space station with me. Feeling too hot, she rolled her shoulders. Do you affirm? Yes. Her heart rate speeded up, but she'd already made her choice and wouldn't shoot him. The man approached her and another propulsion system activated at the front to slow him to a halt. He must have been in his mid-20s and he had a kind, dark face. Are you okay? Her voice came out too high. I will when I get back to the space station. So what I'm going to do is strap my hands around your waist, fastening you to my front. The propulsion pack on my back is dangerous, so that's the way you need to travel. What about the propulsion at the front? I won't activate that. We'll go slowly. Are you okay? Yes. No injuries? No. Okay. She couldn't kill this man in cold blood. She knew nothing of him. Black Ops weren't supposed to trust an unconfirmed alliance. The man carried out a series of complicated knots around her waist, then pulled her against him and took extra time to pull the harnesses and check that everything was fine. Are you ready to go? Yes. Her lungs constricted with fear as they sped towards the space station, approaching it from a different angle. Was he going to kill her, or would there be a different assassin waiting inside the cabin? When they arrived at the metal side, he pressed a button and a porthole opened. They floated inside. After it locked and repressurized, they took off their spacesuits. He smiled at her and took her helmet. You must be completely traumatized. She wanted to tell him how the explosion had swept her co-workers away. She wanted to ask about the Bolivian and Noir Plus secret project and whether the work was all destroyed. There was so much she wanted to open up to, but Ren had said he was an assassin. Would this be the end of her life? When the inner airlock opened, she hyperventilated. Easy now, you're safe, her rescuer said. Ren floated at the end of the cabin, staring at her with superimposed holographic eyes over the bar of silver which concealed his own. Others waited in the next cabin behind him, trying to sneak peeks at Oshun over Ren's shoulder. The other Jurgen cyborgs were nowhere to be seen. Perhaps they'd died. Their biology module had exploded. I'm glad you got back safe and sound. Ren's expression was unreadable. She squinted at him, waiting to hear a telepathic message. None came. He floated over to the man who'd rescued her and patted him on the back. Good work, Toby. How could Ren act like this when he had told her to kill Toby? I can't trust Ren. Toby pivoted around so he faced a confused Oshun, also suspended in midair. He held her shoulders at arm's length. There's going to be an investigation about what happened. An inspector will question you. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll leave you with these guys, Toby said. I need to repair equipment damaged by the blast. Oshun implored Ren through her telepathy devices. Why did you tell me to kill him? He's not an assassin. Ren didn't reply, but his dark eyes bore into her face. Don't leave me. Her gaze darted towards Toby. He lurched around and smiled. You're in safe hands. Just stay here with Ren and Richard. The detective will be with you soon. Oshun, do what he says. Ren's eyebrows quirked. We need to go through what the story is going to be. I can't even trust you. You told me Toby was an assassin. The assassin sneaked off somewhere when Toby volunteered. Toby greeted someone as he pulled himself away through the centre of 5 modules before rounding a corner. Why should I believe anything you say? Oshun's nostrils flared. And how do you even know about us? Who are you working for? Hey, Oshun! Thank Derek you're alive. Matthew, the Nerthling comrade who posed as Elon, dragged himself into the module. Oshun's body stiffened as cold washed over her. Ren had told her the fictional assassin had killed Matthew. Thank Derek, she's alive. Richard frowned at Matthew quizzically. Like the bogan god Derek. Matthew's giggle came out high-pitched. Since when did communists follow bogan religion? Richard asked. Matthew buckled over, faking laughter. I'm just saying. It's just a saying. I'm just kidding, dude. Right. Richard pouted and spun away. I'm going to eat. Ren, you okay waiting for the detective? Sure. Ren heaved a sigh. After Richard was out of sight, Ren whispered to Matthew and Oshun, You're going to get discovered. You said Matthew was murdered, Oshun hissed. Huh? Matthew's brow creased in the centre. How does he know He knows who we are, but it seems Marsh doesn't know about him. Matthew's eyes widened and lower lip quivered. I don't know what you're doing, Oshun said, but this operation is supposed to remain undercover. So tell the detective you don't know what happened. But who are you? He swiped fingers through his black hair. It's too complicated. That was no accident. You said perpetrators on the space station killed Matthew. Trust me, Ren said. That's what I thought. That's what... If I stay quiet about it all, then how can I help the detective? A doorway opened at the side of a module, 4 chambers down. Voices echoed against the walls. A middle-aged Mayleedian woman with short white hair exchanged words with the 2 uniformed men she had entered with before floating along the line of modules to reach Oshun. Identically dressed to the men she had left in a module down, she wore a tight-fitting maroon jumpsuit. The matching skull cap exhibited a law enforcement badge emblazoned on the front. Ren smiled and introduced himself and the 2 so-called apprentices, Elon and Henrietta. The detective's smile was quick, but when she peered at Oshun, her second grin reached her yellow eyes. Henrietta Esteve? That's right. Oshun kept her face neutral, wondering whether she should fabricate the truth. The woman pressed Oshun's hand briefly. You're lucky you survived. I'm Detective Arini. I'm called out to investigate criminal acts in international territories. Oshun couldn't tell what side Arini was on, but she was a native of Artheus. She could be a communist or capitalist. Her badge said International Arthean Police above the picture of a planet. I'd like to ask you some questions, Henrietta. Is that all right with you? Oshun nodded. My name's Detective Arini. Did I say that already? Are you okay floating? Would you prefer to strap yourself against a chair? I'd like to be strapped against a chair. Detective Arini's soft voice and a hint of a smile settled Oshun's heart rate. I understand it's quite an ordeal you just went through. Would you like a snack before we proceed? Oshun nodded. Arini held up a finger indicating to give her a minute. Elon Volskova, I believe you are also an apprentice. That's right. Did you see the explosion or witness anything unusual? No, I just work along from here, so it didn't affect us at all. I barely know Henrietta, as we only met briefly on our flight out of orbit, an initial entrance to Shepherd. Then I'll ask you politely to leave now. Where shall I go? To work? Latmany, my boss, is in a meeting. Is there a communal area where you can take a break? I'll be an hour at the most. There's a small canteen I can go to. She nodded and said bye. She nodded and he said bye, then left. Detective Arini ordered Wren to fetch some refreshments. A brief frown dented his brow before he hinged around to leave. Officer Charlie, Detective Arini gestured towards the enormous man in maroon in the next compartment. His fleshy head edged his skull cap above a thickly muscled neck. Detective Arini swam through the central aisle. Could you assist Henrietta with some harnesses? Let's chat in the module down the way in case someone enters the airlock. We can lock the module on both sides. She gestured for Oshun to follow her and the two men, all in identical uniforms, to the next capsule. Charlie helped harness Oshun into a seat which flipped out from the wall, while Wren returned with a squeeze tube of pearl barley and spinach space sludge. He followed the detective's orders to leave them and lock the door behind. Oshun didn't trust Wren. She felt he was out to get her and do something bad, yet she felt more secure being strapped into a chair. She squished the foul mixture into her mouth as Officer Charlie helped Arini with her straps. The detective rested her forearms on the table between them. I thought it might comfort you to know I've already contacted your father. You did? Yes. Oshun's chest felt tight. She didn't know who she could trust. The operation was supposed to be secret, but from what Wren and those two Jurgen cyborgs knew, that was obviously not the case. Who do you work for? The police. What side? The International Artheus Division. Something like that exists? It's not a large force, the white-haired woman said. It's only used in international territory, such as shared waters and in orbit. Did you see anything? I saw the modules explode and my friends die. We have evidence to suggest a plasma cannon may have decimated the biology department. It did. It was some kind of drone with a plasma weapon attached. Good. I thought it might be something of the sort. Crime scene investigators are collecting forensic samples from the space junk in orbit and the scene of the crime. Did you see any signs of other perpetrators? I didn't. Oshun thought about the fact she was undercover. Only Finley could offer her the help she needed, but she'd been unable to contact him for days. And did you see the victims die? Yes. Professor Sissia's dead body blasted away from the space station. And you say she was already dead? She was dying. Her helmet was cracked. The vacuum of space must have killed her. The detective clutched Oshun's hand, which wasn't holding the squeeze tube of mush. That memory must be very distressing. Oshun gulped, hoping Detective Arini wouldn't detect metal under her glove. It was. She was nice. Did Professor Cisia tell you about anyone mistreating her? No, she didn't. If there were, do you suppose she'd tell you? Oshun remembered Cisia's confusion at Ren's secrets. She also remembered all the top secret science projects they were working on. Cisia, like Uma, had been an opened book, too open. I think she would have told me. We became good friends. Oshun lost her appetite as her digestive system became sensitive to grief. Oshun, Ren said in her mind from beyond the locked door of the cabin, tell the detective about the secret project you worked on with Cisia. Tell her about the container from Hidden City and what it contained. Never. Cisia had said Ren was desperate to know. He must be behind the assault. Oshun's heart hammered. She couldn't be left with him. I'm in danger, she blurted out. Let's get you off this space station. Does that sound good? Detective Arini eyed the large Mayleedian called Officer Charlie. He nodded, reaching for the bullet gun in his holster.